Welcome to Rauta's take on a couple of different videos and also talking about the Metal Threat 2025 festival, which recently took place in the Chicago area in the United States. Now, these videos made of multiple different things that are more or less related to one another, so I decided to make one joint video rather than separating all these different things, scattering them around, because it would be more like collecting the pieces and then putting them all together. So bear with me. First, however, I want to start by responding to a lot of comments made to my previous video about how black metal hoarded itself and destroyed itself in the business. I know the headline, the title of the video was very clickbaity. No denying that. That's how just YouTube works. You make an interesting or maybe some outrageous title for a video and people are like raising eyebrows and like, what the fuck is this old dude talking about? So it's fine. Some people were also upset about the very thumbnail. Imagine people being upset about the goddamn thumbnail rather than reading a video description and trying to figure out what I'm gonna say about it. That just tells a lot about the people, not so much about the topic, nor me, nor what's really going on, so I'll let it slide. But it's interesting that people get so easily upset in a world where we have wars, conflicts, lack of food, lack of clean water, diseases and all that stuff. But some headlines, wow, I'm gonna make a crazy statement about it. Now, I figured out that because my take on it was, in my opinion, very level-headed, but I was also gonna make some salty comments. I knew that I would get some people frustrated, annoyed, people calling me out, people going personal attacks even, just because the topic was too much for some people, what I nowadays call black metal tourists. This is an umbrella term for people who are posers, wannabes, just outsiders to the whole black metal scene and whatnot. Now, if you feel you're like one of them, get the fuck out of the room. This is not for you. You're not gonna be part of the whole thing here. And when people use the word elitism and gatekeeping in that sense, well, elitism is probably a poor choice of words for that. I never actually favored that myself. But I mean, I get it what people are trying to say. Gatekeeping is much more the right word to use to separate the outsiders from the insiders. Why does this matter of any of you? I don't even know. Because people who are in black metal scene, going to the shows either as a, fan or a band member already know what the scene are. And the outsiders who are just interested for some popcorn news or drama and any kind of some kind of headlines making out of this and that, they're not anyway gonna spend a dime on your patches, t-shirts, albums, whatever. They're just there to yell and bark at your very thing like some dogs, and in a way dogs they are. However, when it comes to people I hope to enlighten about these things, these are very, very important topics because it goes way beyond cancel culture. It goes even beyond censorship. What is so sorry is about a lot of bands are ready to censor themselves. For what? A few more gigs, a few more shirts and albums sold. Don't get me wrong. That's what not was the original idea, what I was trying to imply with the previous video when I said a lot of black metal bands are whoring themselves. I was no way going to imply that you cannot make money with your band. By no means. Make it all the way. I mean, I don't really care if you're gonna be the next Kiss, for that matter. All I'm saying, whatever are you doing, do it honestly. Put hand on your heart and say like, okay, I'm just in for the business. I'm just for the money, the drugs, the hookers or groupies, just for the fame and success to feel important. In my books, that is just fine if you're honest with it. But if you're doing a black metal show where you try to be so goddamn evil and you're gonna be some kind of a edgy takes and we're extremist, and then you're just like, hey, that's just for the show, We're like Kiss, When I'm at home, I do totally different things. I even say different things. I even think about different things. But when I'm on a show, I'm this very strong, independent metal warrior. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, obviously, everybody has their own private lives. I do stuff which is not related to metal, not alone black metal, at all. And I don't still feel like I'm living a double life, because what I do is, along with these videos, to play the shows with my own bands, to do the interviews, it all comes from the same spring. The spring which is pouring out the water, which is what I call my lifestyle. Now, I don't assume you to agree with me. I am not begging you to agree with me. Disagree as long as you want, as much as you want. That's totally fine. But what I'm saying, like, if you don't understand the scene, don't pretend you get to make the rules or redefine what the whole scene is all about. If you want to go to Disneyfied or sanitized shows with sanitized and Disneyfied bands, by all means, do that. Keep that scene to yourself and your friends and family, and enjoy that with kids and all that stuff, eating lollipops and whatever. I don't give a fucking damn about it. I also listen to a lot of bands which are really family friendly. There's no problem with that. But when you're trying to make this whole black metal scene, worldwide or not, into the same very fucking box, you're gonna fail miserably. You're gonna be disappointed, you're gonna be frustrated, maybe even angry, because it's not gonna work. You cannot put a ball into a hole which is made out of square, if you know what the children toy reference is. I'm not gonna even, Google up a picture to edit it into this video, because it makes no fucking sense. If you don't understand basic description or metaphors like that, you're just not the audience we're looking for here. Anyway, this was the response to the original video. Once again, it's totally fine to disagree. Call me an asshole if you want to. It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It doesn't hurt anybody else's feeling. But if it feels important to you, just do it. Let your anger out. Go like full Star Wars Luke Skywalker mode and, kill Darth Vader or whatever. I don't care. Anyway, talk about the Metal Threat Festival. That's a kind of a big box of Pandora shit, because in essence, what seemed to be a very, very interesting black metal festival turned out to be something totally different. For a lot of us, people living in Europe, we were seeing like, okay, this is basically like something similar to Steelfest in the sense of, just look at the lineup. It's fantastic. Lots of interesting bands, not just from the black metal scene, but also death metal scene and all. Wonderful lineup. And now I'm gonna tune you in how it was looking originally based on the very website. Sorry, I had this all wrong order. This is the original nowadays Metal Threat Festival site, and of course you will see the lineup that was playing there, or at least booked to play there, as opposed to something different. But the original thing was this. You would have Satanic Warmaster, Destroyer 666, Inquisition, Unleashed, Gehenna, Ancient Roots, Dead Congregation, Sargeist, Disaster, Horna, Hecate Throne, The Crown, and you get the list goes down. There are lots of really, really interesting bands. I was looking at this like, wow, if only I could be there. Now, there are lots of Finnish bands which I get to see often, so I'm not so much interested to see my own friends' band like Corpses or White Death or Satanic Warmaster one more time, because I get to see them often in Finland, including bands like Oceans and whatnot. But there are also a lot of interesting bands, the bigger ones or the medium-sized ones or the smaller ones, which I had not seen or had seen so many years ago that it would be really, really great to see them again. And I was looking at this like, wow, so you have even these kind of a death thrash things like The Crown here, along the lines with these more dangerous black metal bands. You would have different kind of things. Soulburn, a really good band and albums and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, I've never seen Hecate Throne, for example, live. And so I was looking at this like, wow, this is really, really, really great lineup. Now, as the changes would happen, those cancellations would happen, this is the thing what happened. No Sinister for that matter. Mind you, it's not on this poster anymore. You would not have Destroyer 666, not Satanic Warmaster, not Bulldozer, not Gehenna. So even this poster is a little bit different than, this one. So there were lots of cancellations, no Oceans, no this and that. So crossing a lot of these bands out, and what you would have here is this. So looking quite different if you think about it. Sure, there are lots of same bands, and now also some other bands which some might see very, very sketchy. Grand Belialski, I guess, being the main target here. Graveland for a lot of other people as well, all that stuff. I don't care. I'm not into black metal because some bands would be dangerous or they would be sketchy. No, I'm not politically interested in any far right or far left for that matter. I stay out of that shit because it doesn't interest me. I'm in for the music, and I can enjoy music despite what the fucking political statement they might have or lack of thereof. Anyway, my point here is a lot of these bands get cancelled, and now some people are gonna blame the woke, the Antifa, or far left, whatever thing for this thing. But that's not the truth. I heard from various sources that in fact a lot of these visa things which you need in order to get into United States of America were actually kind of postponed or delayed, which means by the time the bands were supposed to get their visas in order to get into the country, that was no go. Now, this could happen only for two reasons. I don't know if you have ever heard of Hanlon's razor. It's like razor of Occam, but Hanlon's. And it says, don't explain anything true evil or sinister for that matter if you can explain it by sheer stupidity. That means you have two choices basically. When someone acts like a dick in a traffic, for instance. I already explained this to my kid years and years ago. It's like you have two ways to do that. Either you were too stupid in traffic and you caused possible harm, accidents and whatnot. Or you're just outright evil and malign in your behavior, meaning you are trying to cause some kind of a havoc and destruction, all that stuff, chaos. Now, you could only imagine if you're hosting, you're promoting a festival, you are doing everything to make it very, very interesting. Why would you sabotage your own band? Out of stupidity? I mean, it's legit and probable cause to just fuck up things. Or you could actually go between these two things which I just said. Not being evil and destroy your whole festival, but just like sabotage just enough that you can actually do the festival, but you can actually replace some of the bands by other bands based on, oh no, they could not get visas, too bad. So instead of Satanic War Master bringing Grand Belial's key in, oh too bad, Destroyer 666 couldn't make it. Hey, I have something better, I have Graveland. And so on and so on. Now, obviously, nobody has full proof that this kind of shit happened. But what I heard from bands that were supposed to play there and people who knows these bands who were supposed to go there, I got various sources and information that these visa applications might have been delayed, purposefully. Meaning the one who was supposed to take care of them knew that if he would delay this stuff, he would have no choice but to replace the original bands. This takes me back to another festival which I will mention you in a bit. So what I'm saying here is maybe this booger, this promoter, sabotaged his own festival just in order to have the bands he wanted to have there originally, but which would not sell tickets as much. I mean, after all, this is in the United States, and a lot of Finnish bands which don't get to play that much in United States, as well as Swedish bands and all that stuff. I mean, if you would put your poster full of those bands, that would attract a lot of people buying those tickets, right? But once they have already bought the tickets, you can just replace the artist and say, oh no, they could not make it. But instead of canceling them your own, you have to frame someone else to take the blame. And in that case, Visa System is a perfect culprit to take the blame. You could say, it was not me changing the bans. It wasn't me replacing the bans. Blame US government. And that's how you get out of the blame pipeline, and you get to say, hey, it was not me, it was this. So in essence, you had a lot of these bands replaced, like almost half of them. And obviously some people still are like, okay, at least this new lineup is still solid and all that stuff. But instead of seeing a lot of foreign bands from United's perspective, you would see a lot of domestic bands. I mean, if you really think about it, count the American bands, Grand Belialski, Master, Inquisition, Sadistic Intent, Oculus. the list goes on. You have a lot of bands that are actually domestic from USA, I mean. And as such, you are spending less time and less money, hassling, these bands when they're coming from domestic. You're actually saving money, but you get to keep the same money because the lineup is same. So a lot of people were probably disappointed by not having the possibility to see these foreign bands, but hey, what can you say? You can say, fucking visa system. It fucking sucks, man. Or maybe it's about work permits and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, I mean, there are lots of good US bands. I've never seen GBK. I would love to, even if it's not my favorite bands. I would love to see Master and, interview them. I would love to see Sadistic Intent again. They were so good at Steelfest a few years ago. I would love to see Atlas again. I would love to see Usurper again, and so on. So what I'm saying here, there are lots of good bands despite of these replacements, but it's definitely not the original one. Now, some people might feel like, okay, I'm gonna get a refund. I want to get my ticket money back. But do you really want to do it once you have booked hotels and flights, maybe made some other plans? You're like, I already spent 2/3 out of my budget on this trip, and now the lineup is different. Will I get a refund and not go there, but I already had those fucking hotels and flights? Or should I just bite the bullet and see the bands? I mean, because they're not bad by no means. It's just different. Now, this reminds me of this German festival. I really can't remember the name for sure, so I'm not gonna do wild guessing here, but I remember how they announced that Pantera would be headlining, and people would be like, wow, Pantera is coming, making a comeback, even if two original members are dead and all, but still. But then, tickets start selling fast, and people would be, buying their flights and booking hotels, and everything was happy. But they were like, okay, Phil Anselmo said something stupid, we're gonna cancel Pantera and his white ass, and we're gonna put something else there. And now people are like, wait, I wanted to see Pantera, that's why I bought my ticket. But can I get a refund? Oh fuck, I already have those fucking hotels and, flights booked. I cannot get a refund for them. So I'm anyway fucked. Either I go and kind of support a festival that kind of fucked me over, or then I just, live with the very fact that I have those hotels and flights booked, and I'm not going to get my money back, and I'm not going to go to the festival either because the band got cancelled. So you're already between the rock and the hard place. You are fucked either way. Either you're going to, boycott the festival for cancelling the band you were supposed to see, or you just go there and you're like, okay, this feels dishonest, but, money spent and all that stuff. Now, what I also heard from Metal Threat, coming from a friend of mine, is that he wouldn't get a refund for his 2024 ticket when the festival was not happening. Instead, they would say, yeah, it's gonna be postponed, you get to use your ticket later. But there's a year difference, not like 2 months or whatever. And also, he was asked to pay some more money for another day because, it was ticket for 2024, not this 2025 lineup. And he was like, fuck that shit, this is dishonest. He wouldn't get, refunded, and he was frustrated. He was basically saying, I'm not going to support this festival anymore because it's bullshit. I heard some other people got refunded only because of their bank, so not by the festival itself. So to me, it seems, coming from these various pieces here and there, hearing a lot of rumors and all that stuff, it seems like the festival promoter knew he was gonna cause a lot of shit. He was banking the money, he was not gonna refund it, he was not gonna do anything right about the bands with the visa problems and all. So who we get to blame? Yeah, I don't know all the details, and if I feel like betrayed, even I was not even going to the very festival, but what seemed to me like a very, very good festival now seems like it was just a fucking trap. It was just a fucking setup to, fuck around things, grab the money, and then not serve people what they were asking for. But I also heard, this needs to be mentioned, that a lot of people were happy about it, seeing like-minded people, seeing a good gigs and all that stuff. So it can't be all bad, but it still feels so fucking wrong. especially in this fucking more extreme sense of extreme metal festivals where, you don't get to see a lot of these bands play everywhere. And when even this is kind of like ruining the things as a fucking inside job, it feels even worse. But it is what it is. Now to our third topic in this very video is I'm gonna mention Andrew Lee because his band Rip to Shreds, was basically calling out old school death metal band for playing a festival with a neo-Nazi band. Of course, this was referring to bands like Graveland and Grand Belaelski. Now, as much as I know, Graveland is not a neo-Nazi band, but sure has some pagan things going on and had some 30 years ago linked to these people in Poland who were into NSBM. And also, of course, Grand Belaelski is linked to Argosland, which is then again related to some very racist topics and white supremacy and all. Now, there would be absolutely nothing wrong with, calling it out, but Rip to Shreds Andrew Lee was calling out Master for playing here. Master, which definitely, as far as I know, don't have any kind of racist or white supremacy agenda. And calling it out was honestly a bit unfair. Even more unfair it is when you found out that Andrew Lee's co-owned own label, Nameless Graves, actually has a band signed which does have some members from our coastland. So Andrew Lee, being American Asian, definitely has the right to call out some racist activities, but it feels like a double standard thing when he's doing that to call out Master, which has nothing to do with these bands, but instead Lee's own label has a band that very much has a problem with racism and white supremacy. It feels so weird that someone from Finland like me, a white-skinned guy, gets to talk about it because it feels so wrong. Now, Lee's point in his own video, which this news is referring to and which I have linked below, it makes sense. Lee's own experience with racism in the United States, I cannot say he's wrong. I cannot say you didn't experience that. I cannot say that he doesn't have the right to talk about it. Of course he has. And when I was watching a Respawn video by heavy metal philosophy channel, John, I don't remember his last name, he has a very level-headed take on it. Maybe a little bit too long because it's some 43 minutes almost. But he really challenges, even if he agrees with a lot of points, Lee all the time. He's like pointing out some things what Lee said and taking his own response to it. And in my opinion, John's take on the video is very, very level-headed. There is no anger, there is no, some weird passion about it. And he's also a American Asian guy with a Korean descendant, if I remember correctly. What I'm saying here is it feels so weird that two American Asian people have different but also similar experiences with American metal community, with certain racist takes and with some white supremacy things, but also they are very, very from different. But when I was listening to this video, quickly revealed to me that the fact is it's not really related so much metal community. It's an American thing. It's an American cultural thing that racism is very inherently part of. So what these guys are talking about and what they're doing, it makes sense to me, even if I'm coming from Finland and our, cultural landscape is very, very different. We don't have the society as American has. We don't have the diversity that they have. So obviously our history with things like racism or some kind of white supremacy is very, very different. I cannot say these guys are wrong that they haven't experienced that. But what really seeps through the cracks and seeps is quite obvious. It is not a metal scene problem as much as it is an American problem. And this needs to be addressed because things are very different from United States and Europe, especially in Finland. Now, I've been to a lot of shows over the decades, ever since 1993, I think, when I got to go to first show, which had like 18 age limit. And obviously I've seen thousands of gigs being played and hundreds of events and all that stuff. And to be honest, I never seen, obviously I can firsthand, be the target of racism in a very white Finland. That's obviously kind of a given. But never ever I've seen people complaining about it, even if they were like immigrants or visitors or guests from other countries. I mean, it was so funny, like 2 years ago, or was it a year ago anyway, I met this person of color from United States. I think she was Hispanic, half black, I guess, wearing a very sketchy, band shirt too. And I was asking her, because we had a really nice discussion about this and that, like how she feels about, coming to event like Steelfest, which is often called out as some kind of a sketchy or even outright Nazi festival, as first of all, a person who would definitely seen as, black, and also, having this experience as an American in Finland. And she was like, nothing is problem here. I mean, like, she was clearly enjoying her time, and there was nothing of that what, people are making these wild guesses or jumping into assumptions. So what I'm saying here is people have these prejudice. Doesn't matter if they come from the left or right or whatever, and they still jump into conclusions just outright because, I mean, it's easy. It's not easy to go to a place and to see, okay, that's not exactly what I was imagining things to be. It's just easy to read a couple of lines online, read a little bit of Twitter or X or Threads or whatever, Facebook, and just, okay, I think this whole thing is very racist, or this thing is that, and all that stuff. Everybody has their prejudice about, say, Indian people or Indian culture. Oh, they shit in Ganges River, so they must be already filthy, dirty, and all that stuff. And you're like, dude, that's super fucking racist. But more so, it's about prejudice. Now, prejudice can come in various colors and shapes and forms and whatnot. I get to see, not racism, but people jumping into conclusions. Because you're white, you must be racist. Because you're bald, you must be Nazi skinhead. Because you're coming from Finland, you must be both. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I know, for instance, there are some people in Metal Archives Canada who are thinking that every black metal band from Finland are outright NSBM band. I'm like, what the fuck? How do you even back this thing? And they're like, hey, I just know, it's a gut feeling kind of a thing. And I'm like, what the fuck? This kind of prejudice is so full of bullshit that, I mean, like, it's like overshadowing even these really experiences Lee or this John might have, because, them being American Asians, or people being, American black people or whatever, Hispanic. But the thing here is, American society is very different. And of course, it changes from state to state, city to city. So what might be, what might be happening in, say, Los Angeles, California, or New York City, them being more liberal or maybe in Deep South, or, I don't know, Midwestern cities or states, it's very different. I don't pretend to know how things are in those scenes or those cities or whatever, but I know it's very, very different from Europe. And Europe is not one unified place either. I mean, it's not like in Finland we have the same thing going on as in, say, Spain or France, Germany, Poland, Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, whatever you have, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, the list goes on. We have lots of different countries, and each country has their own cultural thing going on, and even different countries have their own areas. I mean, even in Finland, we have this called Bible Belt. It might be very, very thin. This is why I'm saying like this, that American Bible Belt, which is like massive. And even these areas are very different from one another. My point here is, if you go to a metal scene and jump into conclusions what happens in one city or in one country, that doesn't mean it applies to the neighboring country. Even Finland and Sweden, as neighbors we are very different. Or Finland or Russia, for that matter, a whole lot different. And it's almost like comparing to, I don't know, USA to Mexico. Can you say they're the same? Right? My point here is, these kind of videos are not really helping out. I mean, I get it. Lee's perspective, Lee's experience is one thing. John's experiences are another thing. Finnish metal scene, it's different. So what I'm saying, like, when you do all kind of scandalous videos and hot takes and all that stuff, who is it really helping out? Especially if you're having double standards like Lee here. Now, I don't have a personal beef with Lee. I have never even spoken to the guy. Actually, without this video, I would have not even heard of the band called Ripped to Shreds or known the guy. So maybe he gave the band some good visibility. or salted it in the process. I don't know. But I'm saying these kind of calling out things in an extreme metal scene doesn't help anybody. It's just hurting the system from inside, and to me it sounds very fucking stupid. But hey, what do I know? I'm just some dumb Finnish metalhead, and I'm old and already grumpy and shit. So, take it as you will. Now, this is probably a topic that will keep revolving into some other levels in the coming weeks or months, so who knows, maybe there will be more Respawn videos here and there. I don't know how the ball is gonna roll out and how things are gonna be folding out later on, but clearly this beats the Cradle of Field member drama by a mile, or a couple of kilometers. And it's interesting to see how things are going to be going in coming 2026, because now it seems the world is ripped to pieces by the conservatives on the right side of things, and on the left side things the woke are doing the same. So whether it's about liberal people trying to do this or right-wing people doing that, it's all shitting on the same fucking plate, and they're gonna offer us to eat out of it. Now, I know one thing for sure: I'm not gonna eat that plate clean, and I surely hope you're not gonna do it either. Rauta out.